$500,000, $50,000, $1.2 million. This is how much elite athletes invest in their recovery alone every year. Athletes like Josh Allen, Coco Gauff, Ilona Maher. When you think of these athletes, it's likely that you think of their endurance, their grind, their strength, and rightfully so, right? But what you don't see is the fact that their excellence and their ability to improve their craft year by year depends just as much on their ability to recover as it does to perform. Now, the problem here is that elite athletes know and understand this, but the general population doesn't, right? So if you're on a healing journey right now, or you feel like you've tried it all in the past, it's very likely that rest and recovery weren't on top of mind for you. So instead, what likely is on top of mind is what we're seeing thriving on social media. Protocols based on perfectionism, willpower, and questionable nutrition. Today, you will learn about mistakes that are likely keeping you and your body stuck for years. But my goal for the next 45 minutes is to help you see how possible it is for you to heal chronic symptoms, and how a gentle approach that supports recovery can be the very thing that allows you to experience more high energy, feel good days by the end of the year, within weeks. Honestly, I see this within weeks, but absolutely by the end of the year. Now, raise your hand for me. Who wants to experience more days feeling like that you can be present with your family and the people that you love, not watching the memories happen from the sidelines? Yes? Amen. Love that. So you are in the right place. Welcome. If we have not met before, hello, my name is Gianna Mahalik. You can sit down. There's some seats just kind of around, so feel free to just hang out. So my name is Gianna Mahalik. I'm a board-certified clinical nutritionist, the founder of Autoimmune Babe Wellness, and a scleroderma warrior 9 years in unmedicated remission. As a board-certified clinical nutritionist, I help people with autoimmune disease address and heal chronic symptoms with a whole person approach so that you can be the professional, the parent, and the person that you deeply want to be. Now, I'll be honest. Okay, my life wasn't always this way, filled with passion and hope and healing, okay? For 10 years of my life, and I'm 34, for 10 years of my life, I was sick, very sick. At 12 years old, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called scleroderma. Now, if you've never heard of scleroderma before, you are certainly not alone. It's kind of sort of like the cousin to lupus. Now, despite the fact that my doctor clearly told me that there was no cure, like most people, my hope was once I started medication that I would feel better. By the age of 17, I tried countless diets with hopes that it would improve my health. I restricted carbs and eliminated processed foods, but that didn't help either. Every diet during this season of my life that I did overwhelmed me to the point of giving up, which eventually led me to believe that I was the problem and that my body must be broken. This struggle continued for years. And it continued until the point where, like many autoimmune women, my illness became my identity. Until one divine moment that I had this realization. I had to start fighting for my health differently. And to do this, I had to start healing alongside the needed medication that I was taking. Now, over the last 8 years, this is how my road to unmedicated remission started, by the way. Now, over the last 8 years, I've been sharing the framework you're about to learn today with hundreds of chronic illness and autoimmune women. I've seen women like Megan, who has lupus for over 20 years and couldn't get up out of bed in the morning without being in excruciating pain, to then waking up at 6:30 in the morning to walk her dogs for miles. I've experienced and witnessed women like Stacy, who was a grandmother in her late 60s, go from feeling so frail and weak she didn't feel comfortable in a room with her granddaughter alone, to now babysitting all of her grandchildren at her house 3 times a week. I've seen Stephanie, a scleroderma warrior, who is a working mother. She was struggling in silence, putting on a brave face for her daughter. And she's now experiencing breakthroughs that are changing the minds of her doctors because of how close she is to remission. Now, give me a right hand raise. Who's ready to learn about these 3 mistakes so that you can avoid them at all costs and increase your quality of life within months and weeks? Yes? Amazing. Let's dive in to mistake number 1. the all or nothing mentality. Have you ever felt like you're doing all the right things, textbook right, and yet you're not getting the results that you want? You're eating healthier than most people that you know, but yet your body is not getting the memo that you should be feeling better by now, right? Now, at this point, it's very likely that those voices in your head start to get louder, saying, this is too much. I'm not doing enough. Is healing even possible for me? This is where most people decide to quit. Not because they don't want to feel better, but because it all feels too much. This is what happens when you start a healing journey with the all or nothing mentality. Now, the all or nothing mentality in real life actually is camouflaged in a way that might seem positive. So it might look something like this. Okay, I'm ready to start a healing journey, and I want to do the best that I can. So I've heard that the AIP diet is pretty good for this. So I'm going to go all in. I'm going to go all freaking in and do the diet the way that it's described. Fast forward 2 weeks later, you're frustrated, overwhelmed, and doubting, is this diet even doable at all? How do people even do this thing, right? What happens next is the reason why 90% of all autoimmune diets fail, 90%. Your brain loves to predict the future. And it does so by storing the evidence of the past. Your past wins, your past failures, traumas, breakthroughs, your brain saves it all for evidence. The all or nothing mentality will just kind of be in the background until those doubts start rushing in. And you're like, am I doing enough? Is this working? Can I really heal? And the all or nothing mentality at that point will likely come in and have your brain telling you, no, girl, no, it's not going to work. You might as well just quit now. The truth is that your brain will choose a familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven most times. And this is actually for your survival. So your brain's actually working to protect you right now. But the truth is it does this and it tries to save you because not because you lack willpower, not because you lack desire, because you lack evidence. And this is why people quit, because they lack evidence. It's why the all or nothing mentality, in my opinion, just sucks, because it will convince you of these two lies. One, that you have to hustle your way to healing. And two, if you fail, you simply didn't try hard enough. Now, the reality is that healing your body actually requires similar support to what it takes to heal a relationship. Strategic intentionality, gentleness, and trust. So the question is, how the heck do we do that? How do we avoid the all or nothing mentality? And how do you start a healing journey that sets you up for success both emotionally and physically, right? The answer starts with this, the next step mentality. You see, most healing tips that you see on social media, those are designed for the feel-good days, the days that you wake up feeling rested, the days that you wake up and you have the energy and the capacity to run with your kids for hours, the days that you have the strength to get the chores done. But what about the days where your symptoms take center stage? The days where the wrecking ball of fatigue hits you when you least expect it? Or the days where you're in so much pain but you can't show it so that people know that you're hurting? How do we support your healing on those days? With the next step mentality, we start here. We start on the days where you have the least capacity and you have the most pain. And the results are incredible when we start when your capacity is the lowest. Now imagine, okay? Imagine you wake up not feeling your best, right? And you have a resource, something that's within your capacity that can actually help your body heal. Not maybe in that moment, but you have the opportunity to step forward, right? When it comes to chronic illness, as somebody who's experienced it for 10 years, one of the most painful things about the symptoms is that we're told that there's no cure. And so we're told that there's no other option. So when we're having the flare-up, all we do is just kind of sit there. And the inability to move and step forward, that is one of the most difficult things that we have to navigate. Hold on, catching it. There we go. Yeah. Emotionally and physically. Now, for Hannah, a Crohn's warrior, now in remission, for her, it started off with taking a few sips of water first thing in the morning before she had any food or caffeine. For Bren, a scleroderma warrior, now in remission, this was taking her full lunch break at work and chewing her food down to a puree before she swallowed it. This approach flips the all or nothing mentality on its head. So even your most symptomatic days can be a launch pad to healing. Do you see how a gentle approach can be the very thing that allows you to experience relief and change your life? Yes? Now, this is an opportunity we discussed before that we're going to stop after each point and have a little opportunity to ask questions. And so this is a great time if you have any questions about this, if you have experience with this, maybe you've been told differently in the past. This is a great opportunity for you to ask questions. Anyone have questions? Concerns? Takeaways? No? We're just processing? That's okay. Cool. We're going to move on. Mistake number 2, focusing on elimination without addition. Now, let me explain. When starting a healing journey, it is very likely that at least one of these questions have come to mind. What diet do I follow? What foods do I eliminate? Give me all the nutrition tips and tricks, right? Like, give me the shortcuts. Now, the problem here is that most people determine the health of their diet by the foods that they eliminate. For example, I'm gluten-free, I'm dairy-free, I'm sugar-free, I avoid seed oils at all costs. The real problem here is that the food that you eliminate actually determines very little about the overall health of your diet, because food becoming medicine is determined and influenced by the food that you eat, not the food that you eliminate. For example, did you know that in 2018, there was actually a study done that tried to find the healthiest gut microbiome diet? Okay, so this is the diet that leads, so if you've ever heard of gut health, gut microbiome, these are kind of like interchangeable terms. So that's what these researchers wanted to find. Was there this elite diet? So they tested 10,000 people from like UK and America, all over, and they tested their gut health and then followed them around to observe their routines, okay? And their goal was to find a common denominator, not just random stuff here and there, one common thread, and they found it. The one common denominator that all the participants did that had the best gut health was that they ate a diverse diet. More specifically, they ate over 30 fruits and vegetables a week. Now, focusing on elimination without addition is a mistake, honestly, that will get you stuck for decades. And I see it all the time. A real life example looks a little something like this. You eat eggs for breakfast? Aren't those inflammatory and high in fat? You like tomatoes? Those are nightshades, and aren't those connected to arthritis inflammation? You like bananas? Aren't those high in sugar and really high in calories? Focusing on food elimination will make you obsessed, subconsciously, with finding what's wrong with food. And the result is that food never becomes medicine. Instead, you get stuck here in the endless cycle of diet culture. So who here, again, we're going to raise our hand if you want it, who here wants a clear path to feeling better? Not this constant whiplash of contradiction about why one diet is a poison and why the other diet or another food is the worst. Am I right? Thank you. Clarity is so kind, right? Now, I'll admit, there is a place for food elimination when it comes to having an anti-inflammatory diet and healing. There is a place for it when it's in combination with food addition. This is what I call the add-in approach. Now, a real-life example of this is, let's say if you eat exclusively gluten and dairy-free, right, and you do this to manage chronic inflammation, but some days you want to wake up and you wake up and you want something sweet, so you make a gluten-free pancake with some GMO dairy-free butter on top, right? Now, is this technically gluten and dairy-free? Yeah, it is. But can we make this more anti-inflammatory? Absolutely. And we're actually going to do this together, okay? So we're going to add some protein with some chicken breakfast sausage, right? We're going to add some antioxidants that help fight inflammation in the body with some strawberries, kiwis, and blueberries. And for a little extra healing energy, we're going to add a matcha latte with almond milk on the side, right? Right? How? Now, if we're actually, like, doesn't that look so good? And the coolest part here is that I did a little nutrition meter for you, a nourishment meter. So this is how many nutrients are in this meal with just the pancake and the dairy-free butter. When we add all these other delicious foods, this is what the nutrient meter looks like. Now, based on this information, which meal do you think is more powerful medicine?
This one.
This one, yeah, right? The more diversity your meal has, the more healing it is, right? This is why obsessing over food elimination is a huge mistake, because it will actually eventually convince you, maybe not in the beginning, but months and years will pass by, and it will convince you that starving your body is the way that food becomes medicine. And this is so not true. It's simply not true. It's actually more or less the opposite. We're going to have a little checkpoint, okay? If you perceived this mistake number 2 with the all or nothing mentality, what may come to mind is 30 different fruits and vegetables. That's literally insane. I cannot do that. Undoable for me. I'm not doing it, right? The feelings that come up for you are discouraged. And you might be thinking, okay, well, what's the point? I'm not going to be able to do 30 fruits and vegetables for whatever reason. And so the action you take is none. You don't. And the result is that you stay exactly where you are today, or worse, in my opinion, you leave yourself vulnerable for getting worse in the future, right? What if we do the same thing with the next step mentality? If you look at that mistake number 2 and you're like, 30 fruits and vegetables, dang, that's a lot. So why don't we just start with 3, right? The feeling is you're getting curious. You're maybe like hopeful, right? And the action is that next time you go to Wegmans, you pick up some fresh corn, zucchini, and maybe State Fair potatoes, right? And the results is that your food becomes more powerful medicine, and you're increasing your odds of feeling better before the summer even ends. Are you seeing how these mistakes actually can compound together? And they compound together, and this is how you can get stuck for literal decades of your life. I see it all the time, and it absolutely breaks my heart. And so this is where I'm actually going to open up for questions one more time, or before the end. But does anyone have any questions about this? Questions, concerns, maybe someone told you opposite, anything that is piquing your curiosity? I just want to give space for that. Yeah.
So do you feel like with the all or nothing, like if people start dabbling in it, that they may still be incorporating bad habits, and like how do you get them to keep progressing through that positive change?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So what I find is that when we start within, so the goal is consistency, right? And so we need to take into consideration what is within the capacity of the individual. And so what we find in research is what is going to be most profound. It's kind of like building a skill, right? Is doing it as frequently as possible. So what a lot of people do is that they'll go outside of their capacity, right? And they'll do it for 2 weeks, or maybe 3 months or 4 months, and then they'll drop. And so that's really where we get this inconsistency pattern, versus when we step into, I'm going to give an example of like drinking 20 ounces of water first thing in the morning, right? Simple, right? But for some people, like Hannah, for example, she was nauseous in the morning. So I was like, hey, like, let's start with a few sips. And she has like, I think she has like a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. So as a busy mom, she was like, okay, this is all I have in the mornings. And so now that she's in remission, there are mornings where it's chaos. And she's like, I just need 1 sip. I just need 1 sip. So we're actually building a foundation for you to stand on when the chaos ensues, right? Because
so tangible goals.
Tangible goals.
And then accountability.
Exactly. That consistency factor will allow these tangible goals to become on autopilot. So the example that I give often is like brushing your teeth, right? When you brush your teeth every day, you cannot go without the day without brushing your teeth. But the person who doesn't brush their teeth every day, they have no idea like how bad their breath smells, right? And so that's what we want something to become as non-negotiable as brushing your teeth. And that starts with something simple.
Thank you.
Of course. Alex, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was just curious if you had any examples of how we can fall victim to this all or nothing mentality in ways that don't always appear super obvious. So
Yeah.
I have always been this way. In some ways it can be a strength, but in many, many ways it can be a huge weakness for me. So I have found that the kind of just for today mentality has worked for me, is like, we don't have to worry about the rest of our lives. We're just going to do this for today.
Yeah.
But what are some ways we can kind of become aware of to kind of catch ourselves when we're acting in this all or nothing mentality?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And so what I did not include in this slide, but I'll share it with you guys now, is something called the emotional tornado. So when we are in this all or nothing mentality, right, it's like, okay, I have to do this or else, right? And so in the moment, right, there's more of this, I want to say more of this like masculine grind, right? And so when there's that point where we need to ultimately rest and recover, when we need to sleep in, like where, you know, our body needs to rest, maybe you can't go to the gym that day, you don't feel guilty. You're like, okay, that's what my body needed that day. And then you're like, okay, but I'm going to go tomorrow. There's a way for you to be fully committed and all in without having the all or nothing mentality. And really, the all or nothing mentality is dangerous because of the self-shame and the emotional tornado attached to it. There's, I'm not good enough. It's, I'm not enough. It's too hard. It's out of reach. And so being mindful of your, of your mental state and also who you watch. So social media, one thing that I would say is like the most toxic about social media, as somebody who was on a healing journey for 2.5 years, in my opinion, it's like once you're in remission, your goal is to then stay in remission. And so a lot of people will show this journey of healing, and it's like so beautiful and so linear. And it's like, you know how unsexy and mucky healing is? It's those days where you're feeling scared. You're feeling scared and you're like, okay. And that's really where the next step mentality actually came from, was from a flare. This might highlight the difference here and what to look for. So I was on a healing journey for over a year, and I got a flare-up. And so a flare-up also has another unique emotional tornado where there's like depression and anxiety and panic. In my opinion, it's completely justified because you're about to be taken out by your own body for an unlimited amount of time. You have no idea. You don't know the damage. It's just a wrecking ball, truly. And so I was very upset because I'm on a healing journey at this point. I'm like, hello, like I'm doing all this stuff. I'm going to a functional medicine doctor. I'm seeing an herbalist. I'm learning about this, and I'm still getting flares. And so I felt myself going into this state of absolute panic and depression, and because I'm familiar with it also. And so I caught myself, and I was like, okay, what can you do right now? I'm going to take a shower. And so I was in the shower. I was taking a shower. And I was just like, okay. And like, I was praying in the shower, and then all of a sudden it was like, okay, what next? What do you do next? And I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna make a smoothie. And in my head at that moment, it's like, I can't do really anything right now to prevent this flare up, but I can absolutely do something right now to prevent the next one. And then that day, I just continued doing little things that day after day, and that was my last flare up. And so that's an example of like, even on your bad days, even on the days where you don't have the capacity, there's not this shame that's attached to it. Your value, your inherent value and your ability to heal isn't connected to your ability to perform. It's your ability to step back and recover. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It does. I think social media it most certainly contributes to that all or nothing mentality, because
oh my gosh, yeah,
you only see the highlights, and it's not the day in, day out inconsistencies that do come up in whatever sort of healing or just growth journey. There's so many things that this could probably apply to, but
giving yourself grace to make mistakes, because like all those people, the influencers, make it look like it's easy and perfect.
Yes.
Oh, I just did these steps and
like, do you see, like, something that we can all look for is when influencers actually change diets. What you don't see behind the scenes is what they are going through that caused them to change the diet. Like the guy who has been like the lead face of the carnivore diet is now eating like fruits and vegetables, right? And he's now like promoting animal or carnivore diet with fruits and vegetables, which is fine, like cool, go for that. But what actually led to that decision change?
Nutritional deficiencies that you have that you finally realize you can only get from these.
Exactly. Why are you now marketing it differently? There's a reason why. And it's probably a health-related reason or emotional-related reason, but what people then see is like, oh, cool, that's a part of the diet. Now I'm going to introduce it. And we never get this temperature meter of actually healing ourselves. We're still outside of ourselves. And so what this allows us to do is it allows us to come inward and be like, hey, what does my body need? And then you get to learn it. And so this is essentially, there's like so much that I want to tell you guys. I'm like, because eventually kind of like what, I'm a new mom. And so what I'm realizing with like my baby, right? When she cries, I know if she's hungry or if she has a dirty diaper or if she's gassy, you start to actually learn those similar things with your symptoms. So like I had a client who, Megan, who's had lupus for 20 years. And she started to decipher a symptom that was actually connected to her lupus versus when she was just tired. And so a lot of the times we don't really know what these symptoms are connected to. And so everything is just fear of the next flare up. And so that's kind of also very much involved in this process. But we can talk about that another day. Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on like fasting? I know a lot of people that have chronic illness or chronic inflammation and they just fast
yes.
a long period of time and then they eat.
Yes.
What's your thoughts on that?
That's such a good question. I love this. So when we're talking about fasting, the benefits of fasting is cellular like regeneration, right? The way that we get cellular regeneration is actually stressing the body enough that your body detoxifies and goes into this detoxification state, right? It's like water fasting, right? We're only giving our body water. This can be dangerous for autoimmune warriors in particular because you don't have the tolerance for detoxification. We can gently detox, and that's what I usually recommend. So the same like with parasite cleanses. I do not recommend parasite cleanses for autoimmune warriors in particular because, again, there's this lack of capacity. And so you can detox. It just might not be the safest and most effective when you're starving yourself. Because if we're looking at what actually heals the cell, right, it's nourishment. And when there's inflammation, right, your body is actually there's already enough stress happening on a cellular level. So if we fast, right, now you're getting stress from like both ends, and it's kind of like you don't have a good foundation to stand on so that you can get the benefits of fasting. There are benefits there, but people are often marketing it to people who are sick, when in my opinion, that is for the biohacker. That's for the person who wants to become the healthiest version of themselves once they're healthy, right? And then not like for weight loss, again, if you are purely, because there's like Prolon, that's also a fasting like resource. Again, if weight loss is the main focus, great, but we want to make sure that inflammation is addressed first, and then Prolon can be something that you can look into. But great question. Did I answer all of it? Was there another part of that, or did I miss that? No?
No, it's just that my husband has chronic inflammation.
Yeah.
And, my husband is an all and nothing type guy.
Yeah.
He is strictly type A.
Yes.
He's either all this way or nothing.
She's taking notes.
Yeah.
So I'm totally opposite of him. I eat, 2 meals, maybe 3 meals a day. And he's like, I don't know how you can eat all that. And he will fast literally for sometimes 36 hours. And I'm just like, babe, you need food.
Yeah.
Of course, he doesn't listen to me because I don't know what he's talking about.
Well, you can. Yeah.
So it's just one of those things that he's been struggling with for almost 10 years.
Yeah.
Is the chronic inflammation.
And he's been fasting for those 10 years, or no?
Probably for the past 5 years he's been fasting.
Yeah.
You know, on and off, you know what I mean? And he does eat very healthy outside of that, you know, but it's just that fasting part that worries me, because I just think, and what you just said about he already has the stress in his body from the inflammation, and now he's adding more stress from not eating.
Yes.
You know, now I just need to figure out how to, you know, convince him.
Yeah.
Just a good start.
Yeah, honestly, there's so much out there. I would,
With Gianna.
yeah, and then like honestly, this is going to be recorded. So if you need to show your husband this and being like, hey, look, you can even skip this part. You know what I mean? Like just like once
Fast forward.
yeah, once we're done with Alex's questions, be like, fast forward. You know what I mean? And this is where, you know, men, I will say men are more tolerant to fasting than women, but the fact that your husband has been dealing with chronic inflammation for a decade, right, and it's not addressed in 5 years, there's something not working. And so this is where things need to shift. And at the end of the day, when we're looking at what heals the body, it's not starvation, because let's be real, if starvation was healing, there would be a lot of people thriving right now, right? And they're not. And so we have evidence in our everyday life. And so this is where, hey, why don't you just add in one more meal when you're fasting? Or hey, how about you fast every quarter? Versus, you know, however often he's fasting right now. And it's like one day. A 36-hour fast you should be doing one time a quarter max, and that's if you are a healthy individual, not with chronic inflammation. So you can try there, and kind of with the next step mentality, kind of give something within his realm of capacity. Any other questions? These are great. I want to give space. Anyone else? Yeah.
I've also heard that this whole fasting topic for me, like I keep looking it up. I'm like, because I'm just so curious about it, but I also am like, okay, if I were to do a 36-hour fast, how do I prepare? How do I break it? Because there's a before and after, right? But I've resisted, because I have also heard that a lot of this science and these studies are done on men.
Yes.
And they're not being tested as heavily on women, and we have a totally different set of hormones and biology that we have to worry about, and
yes,
I'm just like, I'll hold off for now. But
The energy levels, because we're doing 9 million things.
Yeah.
Could definitely contribute to cortisol overload, I've heard. So
Yeah, and even cortisol depletion. Yeah, and like with especially like intermittent fasting, which I feel like is the most popular, a lot of the research is actually initially was made with Ramadan, because Ramadan you fast, and so you actually, if you're pregnant or on your period as a woman, you have essentially a religious exemption where you don't have to fast. And so like our data is taking into consideration a religious practice, but what you're not including in the research is the exemptions that are made specifically for women.
Because of the energy and caloric requirements.
Exactly. And so it's actually damaging. And so that's like, when I learned that, I nearly fell out of my chair, because it's like, there are people that I've known that fast for years, and we don't realize that as women especially, we just need a more gentler approach. And we're so willing to give that to other people. Now I'm just giving you guys permission to give it to yourselves. So, sounds good? Yeah.
There is a book out there called Fast Like a Girl, too.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
Awesome. Do you know who I would honestly I'd love to read, like, no? Okay.
Yeah,
I'll Google. What was it?
Mindy Pills.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So I'll check that out. Just love learning, honestly, at the end of the day. So we're going to move on to the final mistake. That's perfect. Okay, mistake number 3. Seeing medication as a roadblock and not a bridge. Now, statistically speaking, if there were 30 women in this room, we can approximately estimate that 15 to 21 of those women have at least one chronic condition. Now, according to the CDC, approximately 50 to 70% of women in the United States today have been diagnosed with one chronic condition. So if you are a part of this majority, it is very likely that you've had a conversation with your doctor being like, hey, is there anything I can do naturally or to make any dietary changes so that I can positively impact symptoms, right? And what oftentimes happens in these conversations is being told that medication is your only reliable option. And that's kind of where the conversation ends. The problem here is that taking medication isn't the full equation. It's simply part of it, right? And this is why starting a healing journey can often feel like you're hit a crossroad, right? So do I go over here and go all in on conventional medicine, where it's medications, blood tests, doctor's office, the works? Or do I go this way? And do I go all in on holistic healing? Whoop. Where it's supplements, nutrition, lifestyle changes, modalities, the works. Now, the problem here, in my opinion, the real problem, crossroad, it can be avoided entirely if we change or to and. Okay, so you can heal alongside the medication that you are taking right now. I don't know if you've ever heard that before, but it's absolutely true. In fact, this is actually how I started my healing journey with scleroderma. I got professionals in my corner, and I learned how to utilize my medication as a bridge to healing and not a roadblock. And oftentimes, it's like there's this race to get off medication as quickly as possible, and we never really learn how to stabilize our body and recover our body well, and this is such an important part of reaching remission and then staying there. And so I was on a healing journey for over a year taking immunosuppressants. I don't know if anyone's familiar with methotrexate, but it's like essentially an oral version of chemo. So I was like essentially taking chemo and healing at the same time. I know, shocking. But that's what's possible for you. If I can heal with taking chemo, you can absolutely heal with the medications that you may or may not be taking today. And so this essentially, like I said before, it provided me a space for my body to recover and to prevent flare-ups during the season. And when we're not flaring, right, when symptoms are managed, there is a space for recovery. And this is just not a really conventional topic right now, because so often we feel like we have to choose a side. There's such a cultural impact on both sides that we never really see the opportunity to incorporate both. And in my opinion, my professional opinion and my personal opinion is that this is the safest and most effective way to do it. And the fact that nobody's talking about it, I feel like it's like, oh, well, that's why it works so well. You know what I mean? Because it's not, it's polarizing in its own right. So after 12 years of having scleroderma, and being on a healing journey for 2.5, my rheumatologist started weaning me off medication one by one. And now I'm off all medications from scleroderma, and that was in 2015. So it's been like, I'm in my 10th year. Yeah, thank you. That's so great. I appreciate you guys. Well, I share this with you so that you can see what's possible for you, right? There's so often, especially once we start hitting 3, 5, 7 years, you start really forgetting who you were before the diagnosis. And when you start forgetting who you were before the diagnosis, right, it just starts to become really dark. And that's really where that illness and your identity can start merging together. So seeing medication, again, as the sole solution, and not getting support from your doctor and not feeling seen by your doctor, this actually leaves you vulnerable into like accepting the belief that medication is poison and only poison. When honestly, this will hold you back and honestly probably lead you to make mistakes when it comes to your own healing journey that, I don't know, depending on what condition you have, may be irreversible. I've seen it often, and again, it's horrible. So when you heal alongside medication, you can have a rheumatologist and a nutritionist. You can take medication and supplements, and you can be on a healing journey very much inside your doctor's office and outside your doctor's office. Honoring your body and focusing on recovery with medication is the very thing that allows you to expand your quality of life and experience real deal symptom relief so that you can honestly just live the life that you might be dreaming of, or the dreams that you want to reach, or the person that you want to be. That person's in you. That woman's, you're already that woman. You just need to step towards her one by one, step by step, day by day, and you'll evolve into the person that you know that you already are. I firmly believe that. And so the cool thing about this, not to like get factual, but like, I'm a little science nerd. So we love a good, 4-point section if it wants to. Let me nerd out with you guys. Hold on.
I think I need to be your clicker.
I know. Wait, okay. Is it working now? Yes. Okay. It just like needs a little TLC. It's like, hey, I'm still here. Okay. So here are 4 ways you can positively impact the effectiveness of your medications, okay, by using food as medicine. So all we're doing is using food as medicine, and we're changing how our medications function. The first one is drug absorption. So your gut health actually directly influences how your medications are absorbed into the body, and this is because most of the medications that we take are orally, and that includes our gut lining. And your body is going to respond best to medications that your body can absorb. So a lot of research has been done with this, specifically with statins. And so a lot of people will experience like crippling leg pain as a side effect. And so they found that the absorption rate of some of these medications for some people were hindered, and then people would increase the dose, and then they got overdosed, and that's how these side effects started becoming a real issue for these people. Number 2 is going to be drug metabolism. So this is like the activation, the biochemistry behind the medication, and your gut bacteria is very involved in this process, and it can actually increase or decrease the effectiveness of medications, which is wild to me. Don't get me started on gut bacteria and like what they do. It's actually insane, and you'll be here until 10 o'clock at night. Number 3 is going to be inflammation regulation. So if you are an autoimmune warrior, you might be more familiar with this process, where depending on how intense your inflammation is and how bad your flare-up is, this will actually determine what medications are a reliable option for you. So like for me, for example, I shared with you guys that I took methotrexate. So when at the peak of my scleroderma experience, one would say, I had to do it injection because orally was just not going to do it. That's how much inflammation I was having. So that's just a quick example of what that could look like in real time. And then finally, medication-related side effects. Like I shared before, these can increase your odds for medication-related side effects, and they're actually this is connected to all 4 points. They're all very, very connected to each other. And I just want you to know, just kind of wrapping this up together, like, do you see how many options you have right now to start feeling better? A gentle approach that allows you to just get to know yourself a little bit better, what your body needs, how to support it in a way that gives you life so that you can be present, powerful. You can be the mom that you want to be, the wife that you want to be, the leader that you want to be, whatever you want to be. It's possible when you meet yourself and then take steps from there. And so often, chronic illness and autoimmune women in particular are told that is it, this is the dead end, this is what you got. And I'm here to tell you that that's simply not true. There are so many options at your feet right now. All you have to do is step forward and have a little bit more faith that maybe, just maybe, healing might be closer within your reach than you think. Thank you. That's it. Is there any final questions? Yes.
I was just gonna say, this is very inspiring. Like,
Thank you.
I was just saying to Alex, like, I'm a physician assistant. I've been one for 12 years. I'm a science nerd. I read studies all the time. And as a medical provider, I was not trained in this aspect. I was only trained to look at your symptoms and then give you this and this. You get this test, you get this drug. Like, this is what treats this diagnosis. My friends who are nurse practitioners have a little bit more of a holistic view, I feel. But still, they're still trained on assessment, diagnosis. And so I feel like the opportunity to interact with all these different people, from a spiritual all the way to a nutritional, you know, autoimmune standpoint, is huge. And so we were just talking about this on our podcast the other day, that a lot of the docs don't know. So like, just having this conversation with your healthcare providers, I think, was such an important point that you touched on, because the good practitioners will find out for you.
Absolutely.
We'll say we don't know and we'll find out, or we'll send you to the people that do know, but we weren't trained in that. So it takes a lot for somebody to come out of their comfort zone, and a lot of these doctors are overwhelmed, they're overbooked. This is what they were taught, and they just haven't integrated these practices. But I think it is like that you're literally preaching the wave of the future.
I love that. Thank you so much. And I absolutely agree. You brought up something that I wanted to actually include in here, and I'll touch point on it, was like advocacy. And so often people, like, I've been there. We often go into doctors' offices, and then we feel like advocacy is like being right. So we,
or it's even like taboo. Like I was
Yes.
always told, like the doctor's smart. They went to med school. Why would you question them?
yeah,
And I'm like, oh well, that doesn't fly with me. There's no evidence on that. So explain it to me.
absolutely.
But I think being your own advocate, on top of also having somebody who treats you as an informed patient, not just a problem patient,
Yep.
is huge. So finding that
Yeah.
provider that's going to listen to you, and you're like, hey, I've done this research. I've met with the autoimmune babe. I
Yeah.
did this. I did that. And this is what I want to incorporate. If they just throw a drug at you, then maybe they're not the right fit for you.
Absolutely. That I couldn't agree more, and that's what a lot of my clients experience. So they, outside of the doctor's office, you're making progress, right? And what I find, it's so cool when you go into the doctor's office, you're actually more confident.
Yeah.
And you're like more hopeful, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna like we're making progress here, and the doctor will actually respond and be like, oh, this person's like taking action here.
Because
And
otherwise they just go through these routine things. I mean,
Yep.
I myself was guilty of it. 12 years ago, I would
Same.
have just run a basic lab panel for you, said they're all normal, and go on with your day. And if you're tired, get more sleep and
Yep.
take the TV out of your bedroom. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
now I'm like, there's millions of labs we can do. There are millions of other avenues we can see what your diet looks like. We can actually get you nutritional lab tests. We can actually get you with
Absolutely.
a functional medicine doctor. We can
Yeah.
look at what your exercise looks like. And I feel like that's just like, it's missing. So I love that you're bridging this with Western medicine, because I
Yeah.
think there is a place for that.
Yeah.
Like I think medications are great. I've seen them save lives, and you utilize them in your healing journey.
Absolutely.
But
Go on. Sorry.
No, I keep interrupting you.
No.
But I do definitely think this is inspiring, and like you need to get this message out more.
Yeah, thank you. I'm trying. That's why we're here today, because it's like you're so right. When we're talking about especially conditions like scleroderma, like connective tissue autoimmune diseases like lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, when we're talking about like flare-ups, we're talking about flare-ups that like change your body for good, and then you have to adjust to what your body is like, and that is grief. There's grief.
And then it affects your whole quality of life.
Absolutely. And so when we're talking about people like just going off medications, right, without like any strategy, just like kind of throwing them to the wayside, it can be so dangerous. And again, when we're talking about connective tissue autoimmune disease, that flare can be avoided, or it can be just less. And that's what I see oftentimes, is that there's a season of flaring and healing at the same time, right? And that when those flares come up, they're less severe, they're shorter, they have a less mental impact, and then over time they just get better. And then you get and then it's like that summit, that peak that feels so out of reach, you're just like, oh, okay, like I've made it. And it's honestly comical how they're like, oh, okay, like my Hannah, who is in remission, she goes, oh, by the way, my colonoscopy was completely clear. I'm in remission. I'm like, you just said that in the most casual way possible. What do you mean? You know, I'm here having a freak out. You know, she like, literally, she was like, when we first met, she was like, I don't want to even say the word remission. I don't believe in it. She was skeptical, and I was like, that's fine. Yeah. We can use whatever word you want. Whatever allows you to feel safe, let's do it. And I asked her that day, this was probably like a year and a half ago, I said, what would you do if this healing journey worked and you were like in remission? What would you do? Yeah. And she's like, I would hike the Grand Canyon. Thank you, guys. And she hiked the Grand Canyon like 2 months ago.